I've eliminated the fear of failure. So I'm not afraid to try.
I don't need to show up in a way that I think I'm supposed to show up because people will see through it.
I'm sure along the way, everybody said, you're nuts. And it obviously has led to a big success.
We're writing offers all over the place. Like as soon as something hits the market, we're like,
put an offer.
We'll take
on
that
it.
one.
It's not even what we wanted, but
we
sure.
want something.
Hey guys, welcome to Closing the Coast, presented by our friends over at Southern Tide. I'll be your host, Dylan Staples, and this podcast will dive into entrepreneurship, investment, real estate, and a whole host of other topics. We're really looking forward to having you with us. So sit back, relax, and let's get into the show. Well, welcome back to another episode of Closing the Coast. We are here with friends, clients, colleagues, Erin and Matt Conway of Kismet House. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So let's dive right into it.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit more. What is Kismet House? For everybody watching that may not be aware, obviously a lot of people are aware with your following, but for those that aren't aware, that have lived under a rock, what is Kismet House?
Kismet House is, we do content creation and interior design. We have social channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We have a YouTube, but not much of a presence there.
Pinterest.
All the things.
All of them.
All the things.
All the outlets.
Yeah.
Not Snapchatters, though.
Yeah.
No.
Off of Snapchat.
No, not Snapchatters. But yeah, we share renovation and design. How it started was we purchased a fixer-upper on the coast, as you know. And it was the house that no one wanted. I think the other people bidding for it saw it as a tear down. It was a 70s modern, but it had,
I like the air quotes on that.
Right.
I mean, what we said when we toured it was a drunken architect.
Yeah.
It was absolute chaos.
And a time capsule.
Yeah. Saloon doors.
Right. Dustbuster on the wall.
Astroturf.
On the deck. Exterior Astroturf. Like,
okay, so no interior
Exterior
AstroTurf.
AstroTurf.
They drew the line.
Carpet.
Both questionable ideas, yeah.
Bamboo wallpaper, rainbow wallpaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like a bad time capsule. Like it wasn't the cool 70s stuff.
Did you guys have like a carpet rake? I'm trying to remember. Was there any carpet rakes?
So there was still original shag carpet in the closet.
In the closet.
Brown and orange shag.
A little bit of yellow.
Yeah.
Tasty.
And one of the best features was you opened the front door and it couldn't open all the way because it would hit the like faux rock wall.
Oh,
that was
facts.
I'm kind of disappointed you guys took that one out, but that's awesome. So you guys, that's how you got started. And then what was the inception of deciding, okay, we're going to renovate this house anyways, but Matt, you were doing something else at the time.
Yep.
How did you guys embark on this journey?
Well, I was stay-at-home mom at the time to our son, Finnegan, and he was working as a firefighter and was gone all the time. All the time. Like so much overtime, gone on fires, like weeks at a time. And so I started a social media just as an outlet because we were new to the Central Coast. I didn't have friends or family locally. I didn't really have any social life, and I had a small child at home. And so I created a social media just to connect with people who like-minded interior design loving people. And then we purchased the property and I was like, I guess let's use the page to share this. Since I already have the page, let's do that. Let's just share the process. And that's really how it got started. And the account name at the time was actually Uptick Interiors, not Kismet House. And when we got the home, because of the way that it came to be, felt so serendipitous that I didn't want to call it Serendipity House because I felt like that word was very overused and cliche.
Sure.
So I found another word that was similar in meaning,
right.
Kismet. And so we named the house Kismet. Therefore, we named the account Kismet. That's how it came to be.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great story. So you start capturing kind of like the process of, the renovation, what you guys are doing to the house. At what point, because there was obviously a tipping point where you thought, okay, we're gaining traction. Like what were the early days of gaining traction? Like how did that all come to be?
It was surreal.
Yeah.
Everyone thought I was nuts, including Matthew. They're like, because, content creation was this idea at that point. It was 2016. People were doing it, but it wasn't what it is now.
Right.
Where it's this it's a lucrative career. They're content creator tax attorneys. Like, it's a whole thing. as we sit here on a podcast. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But when I started doing it, there was a lot of like, why don't you get a job? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
What does it matter how many people are following along? And I was like, because I feel like this could become a job. And so he got on board. He was like, I mean, I guess we're doing it anyway. So sure. And that's really the inception of it, was a lot of like side eye for most friends and family. But I just kept doing it anyway because I thought it was fun.
And I think one of the biggest testaments currently, and I'm sure when you started, was social media has always been, I think people have started to realize this now. Mm-hmm. Obviously they have, but it has always been a game of, yes, both aesthetics, but consistency. And I think from the beginning, you were consistent and you kept posting, you kept doing these things, and you still do. And I think that also does, like, people continued to see it. And what was cool is they continued to watch along as you guys renovated and all the little projects and all of that stuff. So that's something I think you guys really did.
It's one of the favorite comments that I see on some of the posts is, I've been here from the beginning, or I started following you because of this specific project. And then, you have this, shared history with these people.
Absolutely.
It's really awesome.
I think the greatest compliment is when people did start following us, my design aesthetic was very different. Mm-hmm. Mostly because I was kind of learning and playing and figuring out what worked. And there was that element of like not listening to my own design instincts because of what was trending on social media and what played better for the audience. And so there was a lot of audience capture during a time where I was doing much more like bohemian design, which is so far from like my instinctual design that I have now. But those people are still there. And they're not there because they like the design that I'm doing now. They're there because they have developed this relationship, this parasocial relationship with us. Yeah. Which is huge. I think that's amazing. The best compliment. It's that like they've developed enough of a relationship and care for our family that they're staying even though they're not really getting design inspo anymore.
Yeah, there's been a community created around what we're doing, what we've done, and people choose to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to get to that a little later in talking about kind of you guys as creators, but also that parasocial relationship. Yeah. But I'm interested too in the process. Matt is a firefighter. You're a stay-at-home mom. You're gaining a ton of traction with Kismet House. Yeah. But Matt you're doing a lot of design, and Matt is doing a lot of DIY construction.
Most all of it.
Yeah. Most all of it at home. Yeah. So how did that process go? Did you feel like there was a point where you both sat down and you looked at each other and you're like, I think we should just both really dive into this as a career and a path going forward?
So that kind of came out of necessity. Yeah. So I was working as a firefighter. I did it. I started the job in May of 2000. And an incident occurred in late 2019 that forced me into a medical retirement from the fire department. And, with that, we have, my 20-year career coming to a sudden end. And this Kismet House at the same time taking the completely opposite trajectory of just, starting to skyrocket. So we were very lucky to be able to more or less fall into me being full-time.
Yeah, it was kind of a conversation that we had. It was like, are we going to find something else for you to do? Or are we just going to go all in? Right. And we decided to go all in. And that was, a huge thing for me to be able to even have that conversation with him, because when it started, it was this like idea that everyone thought was crazy. And it became this thing that I was able to like give my husband, who had experienced this separation from his work, like a place to fall. Right. And so like to create that out of this idea was really incredible. But what you're asking about as far as like that trajectory that Matt's doing all the work, this didn't happen until much after his parting ways with the fire department and becoming full-time Kismet House wasn't until we were in our new home. It wasn't with the original Kismet House. And so him doing all the work was literally like nights and weekends. Yeah. And the reason
we would plan my vacations around
projects.
I've got a 11-day vacation coming up. What are we going to
What big project are we going to take on?
Are we doing the kitchen?
Yeah.
Like, are we doing a bathroom in 11 days?
Yeah. And so timelines took so much longer. And in that beginning, the kind of inception during that like first initial growth, it was a lot of redecorating the same finished spaces over and over again.
Right.
Just to like maintain.
Yeah. To have enough content.
Yeah. Because, he was working full time and a lot, and he wasn't home that often. And so it was a lot. But basically once he saw this traction happening and then brands reaching out and saying, hey, we'd like to give you the flooring for your next project. We'd like to provide the cabinetry for this project. He was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll plan my vacations around this. Yeah. Let's do it.
Right.
And so it was that kind of shift, that turning point from hobby to career that really got him like ready to dive in his free time to do it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is a ton of commitment because you're working.
Yes.
And then you're coming. I think it's a very similar narrative to people that aren't doing it per se on like social media.
Yeah.
A lot of people that got their starts in, flipping houses or doing things like that. Yeah. It became a supplement to whatever job they were doing. And then eventually, again, I think they take that. There's a point where they decide to jump off and dive into it full time. Did you find that like, obviously Erin, I think was probably born with the eye for design. Like it's inherent in her. Did you find that you uncovered a passion for doing like these kind of projects, or was this more necessity? And then as you became good at it, you decided to like it more?
It's an interesting
I'd love
question.
to hear this answer.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've ever been asked that question.
So I was lucky enough to be born with a very mechanical brain.
I thought you were going to say a particular set of skills.
I have a particular set of skills.
You're going to go fully amazing
skills that I've honed over a long career.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm born with this, ability to figure things out, especially mechanically. My grandfather was a mechanic. Actually, I had a mechanic shop 45 years. My father's very much the same way. Can build almost anything. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to get that. And then I had the good fortune to grow up very poor and very rural.
Very true.
And a lot of it came out of necessity.
Yeah.
If it was broken, you were going to be the one who fixed it.
Yep.
Like it had to happen. There was no extra money to hire out anything.
If you didn't fix it, wasn't getting
maintaining
fixed.
The vehicles, the home, everything that fell on my father. And I had an interest in it, so I got to learn a lot of it. And then working for the fire department for a long time, you learn a lot about building construction, and you work on projects at the fire station. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those guys had skills. They had other jobs before the fire department or to supplement their income. So you get to work with a guy who's a plumber or an electrician or a tile setter, mm-hmm. and gain those skills, or at least gain somebody that you could call and ask a question.
Right.
For.
But he's also one of those people who he, like the way his brain works, like he wants to understand everything about it. He's not just like, oh, it's cool that you know how to do some plumbing. He's like, I'm going to watch you and you're going to teach me. And I'm not leaving here until I know how to do this. He's just, that's how his brain
not
works.
Knowing how to do something doesn't sit well with me.
Right.
In all things.
I need to know how to do it.
You need to figure it out.
It's not just like,
research it to death.
Right.
But I have found over time that there are things with renovations and DIYs that I don't like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Baseboards.
Yeah.
Baseboards. Nobody likes to do baseboards.
No one. Yeah. I don't think. Yeah.
There's not somebody sitting there right now and be like, baseboards are my passion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finish work.
I think it's always it's I got to do the baseboards. But I think that's a really interesting kind of tandem thing to go alongside. Obviously, you guys have your specific things that you're very good at, and whether it's something that you're like, oh, this wakes me up in the morning, I have to do it, otherwise my day doesn't feel right, or not. I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of creators in this space that are even in as kind of niche down as interior design creators, mm-hmm. but also on the broader sense, I think a lot of it is like solo practitioners, right? It's people that are doing it by themselves, and maybe they have a team behind them. They've got managers, they got these kind of things. But I think it's really cool because you guys have each other, and you guys have things that obviously both of you are very inherently gifted with, and you get the balance of getting to lean on each other to create a way more full experience. I think it's so much cooler to know that a lot of things at Kismet House get done in-house rather than subbed out, which is so much cooler. I mean, like, of course, there are a lot of gifted designers that can point and say, do this, do this, do this to, trades that can do those things. But to know that you guys, especially on your first house, did so much of it yourself and then walked away with a product that looked like you hired out everybody to do those things is obviously really cool for your relationship, but also way more impressive for the end user.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear.
We are a good match.
Look at us.
I think so.
Look at us.
Look at you guys.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Not me.
What's here's a good question to kind of mix it up a little bit is what's the biggest misconception people have about Kismet House or about maybe your guys' jobs as content creators?
Biggest misconception. I think the biggest misconception with a lot of content creators, not to say that we haven't seen success now, like, we've been doing this since 2016, is that they all have a lot of money.
Right.
Like, I think people just assume, well, of course they can do it. They're rich. Right. Like, of course, that's the assumption. Right. And that's fair. It's valid because you're getting these snapshots you're getting the highlight reel. That's what social media is. And if what you do well is make things look beautiful and build things well, it's going to look like you have a lot of money. People don't just have those things.
Right.
And so I think that is the misconception, is that like it was all very easy, like because they had money all along.
And you have the luxury of time to film it all and to put it all together.
Or that there's like this massive team actually helping. It's really not.
No, it's a lot of you two.
Yeah. And so I think that, and, not to say that we aren't in a very like privileged place now, but it has, and we've had tons of privilege to help us get to this place. But there's definitely been a ton of like late nights, long hours, especially when we were in the original Kismet house that we purchased. It was paycheck to paycheck. Like it was struggling to get by, making every penny count. Sometimes purchasing items to style a photo shoot and then returning them. I literally got banned from Target returns.
Yeah.
Because of how many times I had to do that. And so it's, it was a lot of grind. And yes, we had so much help and fortune to get us into that position, but it wasn't this like, well, yeah, of course they could because they had all this extra money. It's like, but we really didn't. And so I think that's a misconception that happens.
Yeah. I think the thing that's most interesting about that too is obviously like myself and my team, we know the backstory of kind of the inception and then have watched you guys along the way and then where you're into the next house, which we'll touch on a little bit here.
Yeah.
But I think that I see that a lot. I mean, across the content creation space, we've had other like local content creators on, is that everybody, of course, they see the finished product and with other content creators, they're seeing a lot more of the finished product itself. You guys do show the process, but behind the process is so much more than what meets the eye in the initial filming of it, right? Like there's so much that goes into it, but our brains, we're short. We have a short attention span, so we just pay attention to that. We're like, okay, well, obviously that didn't take that long. They showed it to me in 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
There was no planning, there was no purchasing, there was none of that. It's really quite cool to see that kind of transformation. So tell us, you guys, one of the most rewarding things I think for our team, having represented the original Kismet house in the sale, was the process of getting you guys there and then seeing the local community and the marketplace respond so positively to the product when it's sold, and having open houses where like so many people came through. I literally couldn't greet. Like I was like, hello. I felt like, I was in a line at Disneyland. I'm like, ticket, please. So that was really awesome to see.
Sure.
So you guys, obviously you sold the original Kismet house and then you bought another house, same community here, but a little bit different flair, obviously, in the interiors that were there and the exterior of the house. So tell us a little bit more about how you went from the original Kismet house to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, like most home purchases, Matthew was not involved. No, I'm just teasing. So
it did happen to be the third home that she had purchased.
So let me tell a little bit about what that means. So when we bought our very first home, which was in Fresno, California, which was not any part of social media at all whatsoever, I had found a realtor. I had started looking at homes while he was on a fire. And I was like, hey, I think we should buy a house. I found this realtor and we're going to go see this house. And he was like, what? So there was a lot of like, hit the ground running. There was a lot of times in our relationship where I've kind of dragged Matt along.
Yeah, dragging me out of my comfort zone.
But not like, I don't want to do this, but just, no, promise it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And he's like, oh, okay. And then we get there and he's like, hey, it turned out great.
But isn't that such a good testament to how you guys work together? There always has to be somebody that's initiating and somebody following with more of a, like, sometimes it's prudence, sometimes it's caution, but it's good to have those balances.
He's the level head.
Yeah.
I'm the gas. He's the brakes.
Yeah. No, exactly. My parents, when 100%. They started investing in real estate, my dad always jokes that my mom came home one day and, very similar to your story, said, Jim, I bought a house. And he said, what did you just say? You bought 100%. A what? It's not a car, which is still significant. It's a home.
It's a whole house.
Yeah. She's like, no, we're going to fix it up and sell it. And it's going to be great.
Yeah.
It always ends with that. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then the guys in this situation are like,
Oh,
okay.
dear.
Sounds great.
Absolutely. We have proof of concept now.
Yes, right?
Yes.
There you go. It's working. Proof of concept.
Yeah. And so that's how we got the original home, and then how we left Fresno. Because he had always, when he was a firefighter, he was working in Santa Cruz and he would commute. And that sounds like insane because it's a 3-hour commute. But when he was on shift, he'd be there for 3 or 4 days, sometimes a week or more. And so it was like a 2 times a week commute at most. Is 3 hours there, gone for 3 or 4 days, 3 hours home. Right. And it's a much easier cost of living in Fresno. That's where I was born and raised. That's where I had friends and family. And so that's where we purchased our first home. But the being apart that much did put a strain on us, especially after we had our first child. And so when he got his promotion, I was like, okay, next thing I'm going to drag you to kicking and screaming. We're going to pretend we don't even see this money. We're going to move to Santa Cruz. We're going to use that additional income to afford rent in Santa Cruz. And that's what we're going to do next. And that's how we're going to get on the coast and get away from Fresno, because he hated Fresno.
Burning passion.
Hated it. And I was like, you don't even want to be here anyway.
It still is.
And so he was like, okay. Because we had been in this house that we'd owned for 4 years. We just fixed it up.
Yeah.
A lot of space, big yard for our kid. And we were going to move into a 700 square foot duplex across the street from a dive bar. And I'm like, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And so we didn't purchase that next one. We rented the home in Fresno. We rented a home in Santa Cruz. And I started then immediately looking for the next step. Yeah. That was just a foot in the door. And then I found a home in Pacific Grove. And he was like, wait, we just got to Santa Cruz. What do you mean Pacific Grove? Like, it's only 45 minutes away. If you could do a 3-hour commute, you could do a 45-minute commute. And we found a home there to rent and took him with me.
Right. Pack your bags.
Yeah, pack your bags. But yeah, I'm doing all the talking. So you can share the next part of what happened next with our home journey.
You're renting a house in Pacific Grove. How does it go from, give the viewers kind of an idea of how it goes from renting a house in EG, as we colloquially call it, to finding the first Kismet house?
So we're renting, and we realize, I think my parents bring up the fact that we're paying for rent what a mortgage would be. And
it was also the fact that the rental market was...
the rental market's going up. So we also get told about this house that's a pocket listing that needs a little bit of massaging, but it might work out for us. So we get introduced to Charlotte. And we go look at this house, and it's in Pacific Grove, and it is in bad shape.
Bad shape.
And
more than a little massaging.
There's a lady, the lady who...
That's the most generous explanation of that property.
The lady who lived there doesn't want to part with it, but has to. And So we embark on this like 6-month long campaign
dance
to try to buy this house.
Which we never bought. That was not the original Kismet
we
house,
weren't
by the
able
way.
to get it. And that was tough. That was, one of those moments where it's like, are we done? Is this not going to happen? Because how else are we going to afford anything? The decision's made to keep going.
Keep looking.
And the market's still climbing. Now the sales market is starting to go up. So we are.
And this is important. We had our top budget was below anything in the market. Nothing cost what our top budget was. Everything was more expensive than that. And so our agent, Charlotte, had her hands full because we're looking at houses in a very desirable area that are $50,000 over what we can afford, and
multiple offers
because it was competitive, and she's trying to get them to, please, for the love of God, just entertain these poor kids' offer. She would call us kids at that point.
Yeah, so we're writing offers all over the place. Like as soon as something hits the market, we're like,
put an offer.
We'll take that one.
It's not even what we wanted.
We want something.
Yeah.
Right.
And Erin ends up finding Kismet house. And it had come back onto the market, or had just gotten a significant price reduction.
Yeah.
And she's like, let's
down from like $1 million.
Let's go see it. So we go and see it, and it's rough. And we go to put an offer in on it.
Well, actually what happened is I contacted Charlotte. Me and her went and saw it. Me and her put in an offer in. I called him at work and said, guess what?
Guess what?
That's what actually
you don't know this, but you might be buying a home.
Right. I think I think at this point I'm probably on like some hillside in Redding, California.
I think he knew a couple days after the offer was submitted. I was like, guess what? He's like, I thought we were done looking, because it had been a year of no.
A year of no.
And we were just really tired and fed up. And we're like, let's just accept that we're renters. It's fine. And then this happened. Yeah.
And we don't get chosen for that purchase.
There's 3 different offers that were submitted. And the all cash offer was chosen. But Charlotte had said, please just put them in the backup position. Like, I know that this offer is going to close. The real estate agent who was representing kind of laughed at her. Yeah. He was like, this is a clean all cash 30-day offer. This is not going to not go through.
Right.
And she's like, I understand that, but my clients have been looking for a year. Like, being put in the backup position will just put a little bit of wind in their sails. Like, just throw them a bone.
Right.
And they were like, okay, fine. So they didn't counter any of the terms of our offer, which we had many.
Right.
It was not a clean offer at all. Yeah. And it was below the cash offer. It was below all the other offers. It was, it was not.
But it was our best and final.
It was our best and final. And so they generously put us in the backup position to throw us a bone.
Shout out Charlotte there.
Shout out to Charlotte.
My business partner, for anybody that doesn't know. But
angel. I mean, the most genius move, because we're watching it go through the motions. We're watching the tent, the inspections happen, the termite tent go on. And we're like, we'd just drive by and like wave at it. Because I told him, that's supposed to be our house. I just know it. I feel it in my bones. And he's like, there's a termite tent on it, Erin. It's not your house.
Yeah, it's someone else's house.
And so then we get a call from Charlotte after like 28 days, and she goes, I just got a call from the agent. I don't think he realized what a backup offer actually is, because he asked if you were still interested in the house because the other offer fell through. You're not interested in the house. You're under contract.
Yeah, you're in escrow.
He accepted it. So if you want it still, you're in escrow. And we were like,
that's amazing. But yesterday, our loan officer just said,
you don't actually
qualify for any money anymore. This is the loan officer that had been drug along for like 14 months with us. And I think she just wanted out.
And we think they just wanted to wash their hands of us.
And Charlotte's like, that's not a problem.
I got Domingo. Is it Domingo? Or
did we deal with Domingo on that one? Yeah.
She's like, don't worry.
We got a guy.
I've got a guy.
We're like, all right, let's go meet this guy.
And he
Domingo
got us.
Alvarez.
Yes, it was Domingo Alvarez.
Yep.
And he got us approved funding loan, all of it, like in 48 hours.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, let's do it. We own a house.
What a great story to get, like, of just like, try if at first it's no, try again kind of thing. And so,
and also, again, shout out to Charlotte. What a great story of having an incredible real estate agent who like fights for you even when they know that like it's bleak. Yeah. It's an uphill climb.
No, definitely. I think in a climate of where real estate is, it's even more reason to make sure you get someone that knows what they're doing. Because I can imagine being on the other side of selling Kismet House, you may not be very happy that the backup offer was just accepted with all the terms, but look at to where it's led, and I think everybody's everybody's happy about that. So,
and the owner ended up being very happy with it because we had written a letter to the mother, written a letter explaining our situation, and she really wanted us to be the offer that was accepted.
Her son was selling the home.
Yeah, but her kids were selling the home, and they're like, Mom, you can't take a lower offer because you like these people.
Just because you like them.
Yeah.
And, it ended up.
Which is fair. They're looking out.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I think it all ended up where it should have been.
Yeah. And so when she found out we got it, they're like, hey, it's them. She was actually really happy.
Yeah.
She was really, really happy. And then the kids
She sent us a card, right?
Yeah. And then the kids came and saw the house after it was fixed up, and they were like, it was supposed to go to you.
Yeah. They're very emotional.
Everyone ended up being very.
That's amazing. So then we fast forward, all the work's been done. You start partnering with brands. You get to a point where you're like, all right, we've done a lot of the projects here. But we also, your family's growing. You've got a wonderful, energetic dog in the mix. And you're like, we probably need some more space. And so, we embark on a journey, myself and Charlotte, again, leading the charge there on the real estate front. And you guys find the next house. So I can remember walking through it with you guys and like talking through all these different things. There was a number of things, a room fully unsupported that Matt's looking at like,
This feels like it's sloping.
Yeah, this feels like it's sloping. It's like we didn't have to do the marble test. We just like kind of walked in. We're like, no, it's
walk
definitely
in, fall over.
Lean.
Yeah, it's the Winchester Mystery House. You're going sideways.
Yeah.
But obviously you guys are, years into it at this point, and you guys have done a wonderful job. We just shot an amazing video there of, their home that was decked out for the holidays.
Yeah.
So how has it been kind of part two? How is the second? Obviously you learned a bunch the first time.
Yes.
Right. So how has it been part two?
I think it's been particularly amazing on the design side because this house is so much more my architectural style. Actually, how we got the house, it wasn't like, hey, we're growing and we're busting this at the seams here. It was I was driving home from a workout class and saw the for sale sign on a house that I thought was cute. And so I was like, what do you think about selling our house?
And you never take that route.
I never take that route, which
that was an interesting thing. Like with
Kismet.
The way that we got the first house was very Kismet.
Yeah.
And then this one's like, well, why did you drive up Congress? That's not how you get back to
where we lived in a different part of town. And it just happened to be where I was driving that day. And I was like, hey, call Charlotte, see if she can show us the house. And Dylan was able to meet us and show us the home. And that's actually why.
Pacific Grove is like, as a town, is kind of one of those places though, where like sometimes you're just like, I know kind of like it's a grid. I know how to get somewhere. So like if I take another street, like, whatever. I'll get there. I just turn right, maybe a street later. So
totally.
I'm glad that you did that though. That was so cool. And it obviously has led to a big success in selling the first one and being in a great position on this one. But it definitely leans more design wise to your strengths.
Which is why we even wanted to tour it. Because I was like, that house is charming, Victorian, historic, not a 70s modern.
Right.
Like that is where I'd actually like to be.
Yep.
Let's see if we have enough equity in this property to get us to that next step.
Which you did. And you're early 1900s Victorian, which is so cool. Got a plaque on the front of the house, which is super neat. And how did you feel, Matt, from like a structural component perspective on this one? Was this more challenging, less challenging? What's your take on it?
It is incredibly well preserved. So
minus the one shed room.
that was an addition.
Yeah.
And we're going to fix that. It's going to be great.
TBD.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
But really, I ended up going under the house. It's very easy to get under the house. It sits up very high, and was going under there with this electrician that we know. And he's been in the industry for a very long time, and he kept commenting on how well built, like, oh wow, look at this house, this is amazing,
right?
And I know that, the older houses tend to have, can have big problems with them, but they tend to be pretty sturdy, if they're well preserved.
Yeah.
And I was excited. There was things in there that it's like, okay, this immediately complicates things, where it's lath and plaster walls that are not well preserved, that are, crumbling. It's not, there's not a easy fix for that. But the structure was good, and the bones were there, and it provided more space for the family, bigger, closer to town. Like it checked so many boxes, and
checked every box that would make us be willing to leave Kismet, because we loved Kismet. That was a really emotional. We hadn't planned to sell, and it was a really emotional decision, and I questioned it extensively. Even while under contract, I was like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And we kept going back to that list of things that Kismet could never have.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we couldn't have been fine in the square footage Kismet offered, but this one offered a laundry room, an office, a guest room, a covered porch. It was our architectural style, walkable to town. Like these things the other house could never, ever have.
And there were a lot of things, I feel like, looking back in that contract that were very, very interesting and quite, that felt meant to be at the time. I mean, we were that was in a market where things were,
oh my gosh,
nuts. And one of the things I can reflect on and kind of look back at is the lender being, the daughter of the listing agent on the house that you're going for.
Yeah.
Which like never happens, and also just helps them feel so much more comfortable. Like a contingent on sale property in that market was like unheard of. Like we told people like, do whatever, like bridge loan, any other product, just to get the property, and then refinance into a traditional mortgage. The contingent on sales just don't work right now because it's so competitive.
Yeah.
And all of those things lined up. And I remember talking to Charlotte and being like, I think they're just supposed to be in this house, because like this doesn't happen to any other of our clients. It's not happening to anybody else's clients. Like this is just
Kismet.
It's Kismet. So so that's really awesome. We've been loving following along, as I'm sure the tons of followers that you guys have been enjoying as well. So what's next? What's next? What's on the radar for Kismet? Like any cool partnerships coming up? Any cool stuff with the house? What's on the horizon?
Well, we were actually just having a business meeting between the two of us yesterday, talking about different ways and different things we could do with Kismet. And currently on the horizon is we have a client project that we're taking on. We're going to be creating a incredible custom closet. They have kind of a sitting room off of their primary suite that connects to the bathroom, and we're going to be breaking open a wall and creating just this incredible, like almost boutique style closet for them. We have a meeting with a potential client for a kitchen,
and a bathroom.
And so there's some client work on the horizon. We've been looking at the potential of a flip that Matt is really interested in.
Yeah.
The potential of putting the charm back into a property that's kind of just been sitting very unloved for a very long time. It's not in dire straits, but it definitely
it's very similar to like the house that we're in now, where great bones just needs
the charm's been kind of taken out.
Yeah, it's been sucked out.
Yeah, it's been, the updates have been, that happened in the 90s.
Yep.
And that happened in the 70s.
Very distinctive
instead of honoring
I think
it.
I speak for everybody in saying that I think everybody wants to see that happen.
I would love to see that happen.
I would love to see that happen. I think that would be a great one. So I think everybody's watching.
We're crossing
and crossing fingers for that property to show up.
Yeah.
And also the joy and happiness of not living in the project will be something special for you.
That'll be different.
Yeah. It'll be a different kind of peace at night when you come home and you're like, oh man, like I don't have, like I have lights in the house right now.
I'm not covered in dust.
But how do I unwind if I'm not also stepping over tools? That's going to be a very different reality.
It will be.
It will.
Get to close the door and walk away from.
But all of those projects are in somebody else's home, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We do still have a lot to do in our current property. Like the aforementioned Winchester Mystery House room is our laundry room. That was an addition to the property that was not done properly, and so it's kind of leaning. So repair
kind of leaning. I mean, the floor loses 2 inches over 8 feet.
That's it's like almost a roof pitch.
It's significant.
Yeah, it has really good drainage.
It's almost a roof pitch. I could almost make a number out of that.
So to totally repair that and make that a beautiful laundry space, we have all the
pushing for a scullery.
Yeah,
he wants.
I want a scullery.
It's completely unnecessary.
That's fine.
We need a laundry room and a mudroom. We don't need a scullery.
It's not a need; it's a want. But
it's a want.
Something he wants a lot.
He does want it very much. Yeah.
That's fantastic though. So first of all, let's cover the first piece of that.
Sure.
If you live in the 831 Monterey Peninsula surrounding area, we need to make people aware that you guys do offer select, if you guys see that a project, fits with the client of what they need and what you guys are willing to offer.
Yep.
How cool is that to be a client here that not only has somebody that's obviously done design and has a really great design eye, but has literally, done the projects themselves and been through them. So if you live here, I think I can speak for these two. Contact them if you have something that you want to make a really special place in your home, or you want to bring life back to some 90s mistakes or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's something that you guys, have started offering and consulting on and doing that stuff. So that's so special. If you live here, take advantage of that, because it's not everywhere, obviously, that you guys get access to talent like this. So that's super huge.
Very kind. Thank you.
It's a huge thing coming forward.
Yeah, it's exciting. So it's definitely, it's a whole different adventure because we've been so focused on like our own home projects. So it's a whole different challenge and a whole different, that's really a whole different challenge.
Yeah, it's a venture for sure.
Yeah. But it's cool.
And
it's very cool to have people.
We'll see if it's a really good fit.
Yeah. But it's as you said, we're selective with clients just because we want to make sure that the client actually feels like we can represent their vision and that we can represent our brand appropriately. But
if the shoe fits,
the shoe fits.
But I think design has to be that way. There's never anybody that's fantastic at every type of design or what's needed. And obviously you have said that with, you guys did a fantastic job with Original Kismet, but what makes your heart sing and get you really excited is probably what's going to fit most with your business venture, because you guys want that to be a positive. But in a place, I can speak from, being born and raised here, where we don't have access to as many people that are like hyper talented. It's a great resource for people to lean on and take a lot of homes here that you've seen around that have been kind of just left.
Yes.
And could be really, really cool.
Yes.
Like your two projects, your two big, Kismet house projects, and just made into something that's like, out of a magazine.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, that there are so many houses I would love to get my hands on.
Absolutely.
So it definitely, if you're someone out there watching or listening that you feel like your house might be a fit, send us an email.
Yeah. All in due time. Just for the folks that are watching, definitely contact them now, because there will become a point where they
might be harder.
Will be doing very, very select projects here, because they will be at that level, because they're well on their trajectory there. So
last year we launched a lighting line.
Yep.
And that has performed really, really well.
Yeah.
Very well received. It's doing awesome.
Yeah.
Exceeding everybody's expectations. Erin designed those from scratch. We still have the original pencil drawings that she made.
Are absolutely terrible.
For
terrible drawings.
Design these lights.
Great.
So thank you. Thank you.
We won't show those.
No. I never claimed to be an artist in that capacity.
Pursuing other licensing opportunities for the brand is something on the horizon.
For sure.
We'd love the opportunity to do TV.
Yeah,
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, lots of things. It's just right now we're kind of just focused on the clients that we have upcoming. the projects that we have in our own property pending, and then still being able to create content that our audience expects from us and wants to consume. And so that balance of like building the business to a different step, but maintaining, you know, what we've built and why people are even there is that kind of dance that we're learning the steps for right now.
Yeah, that's the difficult task, is staying true to the brand, but also, you know, the people who support the brand and why they continue to show up,
why the brand exists and
support us. So every step that we take, we have to make sure that we're really honoring the community that's been built.
Yeah.
Right.
And not alienating them because we see this shiny thing over here that we want to pursue.
Which is, incredibly integritous.
Because
how you built it.
Thank you. And it's very important to us because, you know, we're not here without
only
them.
Exist because of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes we take a step and we say, you know what, that wasn't the right thing to do.
Step. Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's good. I think a lot of, you know, that's how things succeed in long term. You know, strategy is that you're being prudent with every decision you're making, as opposed to jumping. And that kind of segue is really good. On all of the podcasts, we like to ask, you know, because we're entrepreneurial minded. Obviously, you guys are incredibly entrepreneurially minded. So I'm young. A lot of the people that I think this will reach will be in a younger age demographic. How, like, if you guys could go back and give some advice to your younger self, or someone that may be starting out that's thinking about content creation or design or any of these things, what's a piece of advice that you think you would give to your younger self or one of those people?
Want to go for it?
Go ahead. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Or do you want me to go first? I can go first. So I've said this a lot to our social media community, and we get asked many times, how do you know how to do all of that?
Right.
And my answer is, I don't, but I've eliminated the fear of failure. So I'm not afraid to try. And sometimes that means that you have to buy more product, more material, and experiment and learn as you go. But that is the advice that I give to people, is to, when possible, remove that fear of failure. It holds you back. Now, there's some things that it's great to have a fear of failure on, right? And be, like you're saying, be very prudent in your decision making.
Yeah. Motorcycle racing, those kinds of things.
Things like
High
that.
Risk,
you know, over investing, or you know, drawing your budget too thin. But as far as taking on a project, and that could be entrepreneurial, it could be a new career path. It's, you know, as best you can, try to be unafraid of the, if not of the consequences, right? You know, evaluate the consequences and do a risk assessment, but eliminate that fear that you can't do it.
Yeah.
And the fear in yourself.
Yeah.
And embrace that, you know, failure is a lesson.
Yeah. I'd say on the content creation side, don't try to be what you think people want you to be. Do not try to be a version of yourself that you think is most palatable. It is insincere. People will see right through it. You won't actually connect or make any real community that way. And being a version of yourself that is palatable to everyone, is that no one exists that everybody likes. No real, true, authentic person exists that everybody likes. Be who you are. Actually have your voice in it, whatever that is. Sometimes I show up without my makeup on and my hair is messy. Sometimes I use profanity. I tell dad jokes. I'm not super polished in some things. Oftentimes people will joke that, like, I look nothing like the homes that I create because I'm in my sweats and my no makeup and my house is super polished. But that is who I am. I don't need to show up in a way that I think I'm supposed to show up, because people will see through it. Right. So be authentically yourself. It might sound like a cliche, but it really does matter. Because social media, especially content creation, is something that so many people are pursuing right now, that I feel like people are trying to, like, just copycat what's working for somebody else. And that is why they don't succeed. The people who succeed are uniquely them. And so just don't be afraid of who you are. Again, fear. Don't be afraid to let people see who you are. You're not like if people unfollow, you're not losing a community of people. You're just building the community that's supposed to be there stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. That's to both of those points. I think, you are the biggest case study of why you should be authentic to yourself. You guys are very, very authentic on social media. And I think that builds, like you said, the community you've touched on. The community is huge. Like if you go take a look at Kismet House Instagram, the people that are engaging on there, right? It's like true, authentic connection, that parasocial relationship, right? Like they feel like they know you, which is why they stay with you, even when your design has changed, even when there's a new project, even if they think to themselves, I don't know if I enjoy watching this video of Matt making an arch. They stay there because they feel like they know Matt and they want to support Matt.
Yeah.
Regardless of if they care about archways, right? Or the construction of something else on the property.
Absolutely.
So that's something special, and I think to your point as well, we've talked about it a little bit on other shows. Is that analysis paralysis is there is so much of that, especially in our generation of people that are like looking at it going, I really want to do this, especially in podcasting. There's a lot of people that are like, I want to start a podcast,
right?
And they don't do it because it's like. And you're like, well, why? Like, there are ways to do it. There are things to try, right? And they just don't do it because they're afraid of, well, what if I do it and then nobody watches it or nobody engages with me or I fail?
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you just go, well, the only sure way to fail is to never try.
Absolutely.
Like that's such a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason.
By not doing it, you failed.
Yeah.
You didn't even give yourself a chance.
Yeah,
I think that's really important distinction in business, entrepreneurship, is that you're not a failure. Right? You tried something that didn't work. That's not a personal failure.
Right.
You have to be able to separate between, yourself and it's very difficult, especially in, how we operate where, this is the face of the business.
Right.
There's a lot of vulnerability in it.
Right.
Yeah.
You're somewhat of a reflection, but at the same time, you're trying something within business. But that's where character is built, I think, is that for you to step out and say, I'm going to try this. And if I fail, at least I tried and I can walk away knowing I did.
Yep.
I think there's something, certainly very humbling in trying and also very, laudable in that action.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've explained it, at least from my perspective. It was, in my former career, failures were life and death.
Yeah.
Right. And in not that what we're doing is not important, but a failure today just really comes down to time and money. Right. You might have to do it over again and that's not awesome.
Right. No one likes to.
No one likes that, but it is very different. So we have a different this other perspective that helps to at least drive my psyche on these things, or taking them on, where
it's a very unique perspective.
It is a very unique perspective. So put yourself in my shoes and go for it. But like, when we did the latest room that we did, the first paint color that went up didn't work at all. And that was, that's a very difficult decision to change when you just spent the last 2 days getting this, it prepped and ready for paint and then painted.
It was one of those.
And
it's your turn.
Yeah. And you take
tap out.
Yeah. Take it off and go, oh, this can't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a difficult decision to say, okay, well, we're going to be out another 2 days and $150 worth of paint and
from the ego side of it, it's like I made this decision. I was very confident in that decision to the point where I spent this amount of money on the paint and this amount of time to realize I got this one wrong.
Yeah.
And I did it very publicly. That's okay. So what? People get it wrong. People paint the wrong color all the time. Like we're not infallible. Just because we're on social media, we're still human beings. Just one more thing that's totally off. But with the social media part, like as far as like if you are starting, don't wait until you have like the right amount of money or the right the right phone, the right microphone. Just start.
Yep.
Just start. Like I could show my first pictures, my first stories.
Yeah.
Absolute mess.
Yeah.
Absolute mess. No. Just start. Just do it.
Jules and Maddie of Kitchen by the Sea, who you guys have met, and collaborated with were on a podcast, and they said the exact same thing. They were thinking about it for so long, and then they thought to themselves, which is actually kind of funny, if you make it at some point, no one's really going to see the first, drafts anyways, unless they're really curious. And then it's more of a haha, giggle. It's funny, from then. But you just kind of got to do it. Like, don't wait until you have it. Otherwise, you'll always be going, well, I don't have this. I don't have this. And it just becomes this, again, analysis. You're sitting there going, if I don't have that, I can't do it. Just start. Just try. See where it goes.
100%. Do not compare yourself to somebody's final chapter. Like you are starting. All of our first draft sucked. It was all mediocre. And we still showed up. Just show up.
I think a lot of that's true though, outside of just business or entrepreneurship. It's, you're never going to have the perfect time to have a child. Right. That it's never going to be the perfect budget to buy a house. Right. But you make that step and you'll fill in the gaps. Right. By necessity. Leap of faith. So if you want to start a podcast, I mean, I'm sure you can buy, a small kit
on Amazon.
Heck, you can do it just with your iPhone. Right.
Absolutely. And you don't even have to have a video. You could just start straight
on it. Start podcast.
And just get started.
Get started. Jump out. I think that's a story that I think is as old as time, is that, the great things aren't built, from people that are afraid of everything or afraid to fail. The great things are built in life when you look back at all the massive creations of the world and all the, very intelligent people that brought electricity and,
absolutely,
running water and the wheel. Nobody, I'm sure along the way, everybody said, you're nuts.
Absolutely.
And they looked at themselves and probably thought, maybe I am a little nuts. And then they just did it and they jumped out and then
they didn't get it right the first time.
And they didn't get it right the first time and they kept pushing. And then now we look back at them as visionaries and we don't study. Guess what? We don't really study their failures. We see them for what they ended up with their finished product. So don't be afraid. Jump out, do it. I think you guys are a testament to that and have built something obviously incredible. So much so that people aren't looking at your first post on Instagram. They're keeping up.
Don't scroll back. It's hideous. Please don't scroll back. I'm going to archive it today.
I think everybody's that way. But thank you guys for joining us and sharing your guys' vision and your journey. And if you guys aren't already following them, Kismet House on Instagram and across platforms, definitely check them out. They are amazing and really quite an inspiration to everybody that follows them. So check them out when you have time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
All right. I hope you guys will follow along. All right.
Absolutely.